Hold on. Let me. I dropped my book. Hold on, y'all. Let me move away. I had the sun behind me. I'm at a cafe that I used to go to years ago when I first came here. And I don't like the image at all. It looks so dusty here. Oh well. All right, y'all. It is what it is. Make it do what it do. So we're on another chapter, which I am happy about. We are on the chapter dealing with Peter, and it's actually quite interesting stuff. All right. So welcome everyone. This is the free astrotheology course. I am Dr. Yasafa from Zion Law School. Our textbook is The Devil's Pulpit. Of course, we have two supplementary textbooks, the Diegesis by the same author, the Reverend Robert Taylor, and Ptolemy's Tetrabiblios. We'll be getting into that soon, rather. Very content that they present. My understanding is Ptolemy's Tetrabiblios is the basis of astrology. All right. But you have to remember that astronomy in those times was called astrology in those times was synonymous with astronomy. So that the religious and spookism stuff didn't come until later, of course, with religion, all right? That's when all the gods, devils, and demons and all of that stuff started happening. And my opinion is that the Catholic Church is behind all of that, and that none of these religions are actually ancient. All right, y'all, this is our chapter, St. Peter. This is the Reverend Robert Taylor's 10th sermon at the Rotunda. Y'all make sure to watch the video about his life sketch that I did. One of the first videos that I did in this series of The Devil's Pulpit. So this is the second series. The first series I did, I don't know, 2 years ago. I don't remember. All right. But in any event, you should read it. You should be familiar with his background. Okay, so St. Peter, the lecture. Now, y'all remember, the author calls his work. He calls these discussions he calls them lectures. But in the book, the titles of each sermon, they have a sermon. Make the distinction. Be aware of that and make the distinction, okay? Because a sermon has a religious connotation. Whereas a lecture, of course, is academic. Very different. Okay, yo? Hold on. Lost my shoe. All right. I'm back in business. Okay, so St. Peter, I'm going to call it a lecture because he himself calls it a lecture, delivered by His Highness Chaplain, the Reverend Robert Taylor, B.A. At the Rotunda. Y'all can see a picture of the Rotunda, the building where the author gave these lectures, in my community section. Or you can Google search it. Blackfriars Road, February 20th, 1831. So this, again, almost 200 years old. Okay, black friars, blackamoors, okay, blacks. All right. Anyway, let's get into it. The text, the theme scripture is Matthew chapter 8, verse 14. Matthew 8, verse 14, y'all. Quote, "And when Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid and sick of a fever." How many of y'all noticed bad grammar there? Or at least by modern terms, modern rules, bad grammar. "And when Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid and sick of a fever." Like, I'm sick of you, but sick of a fever. "And he touched her hand, and the fever left her. And she arose and ministered unto them." Matthew chapter 8, verse 14. Here is a personage introduced to us. Here's a person introduced to us, whom we ought, upon all principles of rational criticism, right? That means rational thinking, critical thinking, to be supposed to never have heard of before. Okay, so the way Peter is introduced in Matthew, in the verse we just read, it appears that this is supposed to be our first time hearing about Peter. This is what the author is saying. "For this is the first passage in any part of capital G-O-D, God, Zeus, Odin, Magi, Master, Magistrates, most holy word, that is, in either New Testament or Old, in which the name Peter occurs." So here's the first time we hear about Peter. "Yet here, in Matthew 8, 14, Peter's name occurs, and his character is introduced with a familiarity as gross, as if the writer of this gospel had taken it for granted that everybody must know who Peter was. That his name and character and everything that was to be understood with respect to him, with respect to Peter, would present itself to the mind as immediately as the name of any day of the week or months of the year. The author is saying that that Peter was introduced as though everybody knows Peter. The author knows that everybody knows Peter. Okay? Based upon the way he's introduced. The assumption is that Peter is like your cousin Ray Ray. My brother Pulpit or my brother Noki. Okay, y'all? As you might say, Sunday, February 20th, everybody knowing as well as yourself what Sunday, February 20th means. Approve this among 10,000 other proofs that these Gospels are not original writings. Y'all got that? The author is saying that because Peter is introduced as though all the readers know who he was, well, it means that the Gospels are not original writings because everybody knew Peter. So they had to know Peter from someplace. So the author is saying that they knew him by other written material that existed before the Gospels were written. Y'all got it? Okay, so again, the author says that this piece of evidence that I just said, there's 10,000 more pieces of evidence just like it to prove that the Gospels are not original writings, but that these stories existed before the Gospel was ever written. That means that they were plagiarized from someplace else. This is the only reason the author could write about Peter in such a way that assumes everybody knows who Peter is. Okay, y'all? Anyway, let's continue. And could have been written till any length of time you please, after all the subject matter which they contain was as familiar to the general notions and ordinary associations of ideas among the persons for whose convenience they were written, as the names of the days of the weeks are with ourselves. Now I need to go back and read that again. Give me 1 second. Okay. So yeah. So all he's saying is that the writings are not, the stories are not original. The stories existed as long as you can imagine long is before the gospel documents were written. The stories were already there. That's what he's saying. Okay? So let me put it in the record without me saying anything so it's not confusing. A proof of this, among 10,000 others, that these Gospels are not original writings and were not and could not have been written till any length of time you please after all of the subject matter which they contain was as familiar to the general notions, that's familiar to the general public, everybody knew it, right? Common knowledge. And ordinary associations of idea among the persons for whose convenience they were written, as the names of the days of the weeks are with ourselves. See, everybody uses the days of the week, right? Everybody uses the months. So the author is saying that these stories, of which Peter is one, being introduced as though everybody knows him, or knew him rather, the common people knew it. It was common knowledge. Just like we also know what? We know that astrology, astronomy was common knowledge. The Farmer's Almanac is the best example of that I can think of, right? Everybody lived based upon the Farmer's Almanac. Just period. That's how we governed our lives. All right? Okay. Let's continue. Page 146. Here is an ambiguity in the text itself. Some unclear stuff, y'all. Here is an ambiguity in the text itself. Now, see, we're dealing with the text, not a doctrine, not what your pastor or preacher or imam or general or captain or rabbi said. We're dealing with the text. Okay? Here is an ambiguity in the text itself, which could only have been set right, or at least settled, by those who had other and better means of settling it than any information which this gospel contains. Y'all got that? So this ambiguity isn't made clear by the gospel itself. Okay, so whoever settled this stuff, in other words, gave clarity to the unclear things or to the ambiguous text, they had to have other documents and sources to settle it. All right, that's what he means by. That's what he means by. Here is an ambiguity in the text itself, which could only have been set right, or at least settled, by those who had other texts, other sources, and better means of settling it. Y'all see it? For as far as the text goes, quote unquote, when Jesus was coming to Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid. He saw his wife's mother laid and sick of a fever. So now y'all look at this, quote unquote. When Jesus was come into Peter's house. Is that proper grammar? When I was come into your house. When I was come into Mary's house. When I was come into James' house. When I was come into Sally's house. When I was come into my mother's house. Is that proper grammar, y'all? Was. He saw his wife's mother laid. He saw his wife's mother laid. Laid. And sick of a fever. What's going on with the grammar in this text? There's no knowing whether it was Peter's wife's mother, right? There's no knowing whether it was Peter's wife's mother or Jesus' wife's mother that was laid and sick of a fever. Y'all got that? Look, listen to it again. When Jesus was come into Peter's wife, he saw his wife's. His is a pronoun for who? Is it talking about Jesus or is it talking about Peter? It's ambiguous. It's unclear. Whose wife's mother laid? Y'all see it? Grammar is extremely important. Anyway, let's continue. And if anything like historical and probable fact were intended in the matter, historical and probable fact, that means you have to exclude, well, the Tetragrammaton is God, and with God everything is possible. Exclude that. You may as well stop thinking. You may as well turn off your logical mind, because everything boils down to everything is possible with God. Okay? And if anything like historical and probable fact were intended in the matter, that's in the matter of the verse we just read, nothing hinders, nothing stops, nothing prevents, but that Jesus might have been a married man as well as Peter. So this is the ambiguity created by the text, y'all. The uncertainty, the questions, the possibilities. This is why grammar rules matter. Grammar matters. And there might have been a mistress, Jesus Christ, as well as a mistress, Peter. And that, too, with great relief to the moral character of this great pattern of holiness. The pattern would be what, y'all? A record. A record. Everybody knows these documents, so it's a what? It's a public record. It's there for you to go check it. Y'all remember full faith and credibility. Don't be credulous. Don't just listen to what your religious leader, clergy, priest, rabbi, whatever tells you. Don't be credulous. All right, y'all? Now, let's go back. He saw his wife's mother. Jesus' wife, mother. Peter's wife, mother. Jesus may have had a mistress. Or as the text says, let me say what the text says. The text says, Mistress Jesus Christ. Mistress Jesus Christ. Mistress Peter. All right, y'all? Now, y'all know the gospel standard of morality. Y'all know the Christian standards of morality. The religion that I was in taught that one man, one wife. You cannot have a mistress. Okay? You can only have sexual relations with your wife or your husband. That's what the doctrine was in the organization that, in the religious tradition that I came up in. But not all are like that. Some of them say you can have more than one wife. Right? Some say that. That's their doctrine. But the Catholic Church doctrine is one man, one wife, and no mistress, and no sex before marriage. That is a doctrine. That's their religious doctrine. That's their moral code. All right, now let's get into it. Let's get into it. And that too, with great relief to the moral character, are they following the moral code of the Catholic Church or of Christianity? One man, one wife. Or if Jesus had one wife, did he have mistresses, side chicks? In which case he would have been what? Breaking the Christian moral code. But anyway, let's continue. With very great relief to the moral character of this great pattern of holiness. The record of holiness, cleanliness, morality. You can go back and check their moral standards. Check the record, their doctrines on sex and marriage. From certain suspicions which would naturally attach to a person who was so familiar as he was, that is, as Jesus was, with other men's wives. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I suspect everybody sees what's happening here. Everybody sees that? The moral code, one man, one wife, no mistresses, no sex out of marriage. But the author is showing that Jesus was very close to a lot of other men's wives, or a lot of women. All right, but anyway, let's continue. Let's continue. For certain suspicions which would naturally attach to a person, I agree with them. If you see somebody always with other men's wives, and these women are always around this man, I mean, come on, how many of y'all are going to wonder or even assume that they got something going on between them? Be honest. Be honest. You see a man and he's always got a certain group of women around him. It's only natural for, even if it's totally innocent, it's only natural for people to wonder, to think, or assume that they got something going on. This is what the author is talking about. All right? So people will become suspicious when they see the same women around the same man, especially when they're serving him, right? When they're serving him. All right? So anyway, let's continue. Where were we? Where were we? Okay, from certain suspicions which would naturally attach to a person who was so familiar as he was with other men's wives, as we expressly read, that he was followed by certain women which had evil spirits. Which evil spirits? I hope I may, without impiety, suppose to be none of the best spirits. He's being sarcastic. All right? Quote unquote, Mary Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils, and Joanna, the wife of Chusa, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others, and many other women, which ministered to him of their substance. So they ministered, they served Jesus with their substance. What substance is that? Y'all look up the word substance and see what you find. In fact, do me a favor and look up substance and put it in the description area of the video. Put it in the comment section. And y'all tell me what you think it means. What do you think this text might mean? Mary Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils, and Joanna, the wife of Chusa, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others, and many other women. Y'all tell me what this means. What this means. Which ministered, look up ministered, which ministered to him of their substance. Look up ministered, look up substance, and then y'all tell me what y'all think it means. Put it in the comment section. Put the definitions of ministered and substance in the comment section. If you can find it in Strong's lexicon, that's good too. All right. Page 146, continue. Like the great mogul, this great pattern of purity and holiness, this great record of Christianity's morality on sex and marriage, on being set apart, his purity and holiness notwithstanding, kept a seraglio. Somebody look that up. I don't know the meaning of that word. Seraglio. 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 Which accounts for the singular fact. Matter of fact, y'all, hold on. Let me look that up. I'll be right back. Let me look it up. How can I do this? Hold on. I'm not able to, y'all, I'm not able to, I'm not able to look it up. Somebody look it up for me, please. Put it in the description area of the video. Seraglio. Seraglio. Okay. Which accounts for the singular fact that of all the 10 commandments, the one which our blessed Savior held to be the least of all the 10 commandments, the one that Jesus thought to be the least important, held to be of least consequence, was that which comes between, quote unquote, thou shalt do no murder, and quote unquote, thou shalt not steal. Somebody put Seraglio in the comment section, please. Kept a Seraglio. His purity, his holiness, notwithstanding, kept a Seraglio. So I'm not going to comment on this sentence because I don't know what Seraglio means. Put it in the comment section for me, please. Let's continue. But what we can say is that the author is telling us, that the commandments not to murder and not to steal, well, Jesus didn't think very much of those two commandments. But let's see how he develops his argument. As we find him disposed to hush up a matter of that sort, okay, so he hushed up a matter of stealing and murder. As we find him disposed to hush up a matter of that sort, with a good nature, utut, say no more about it, say no more about it. Hath no man condemned thee, woman? Neither do I condemn thee. We are 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Go, go, and be more prudent for the future. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm going to come back. I'm going to look into this, y'all. If you know, put it in the comment section. He goes on, we're on page 147. It is not for us to fling stones at you. The gospel, you see, both in example and precept, presents us with the purest system of morals that was ever propounded to man. So he's being sarcastic again. What he's telling you is that the gospel's morality is double-tongued. That's what he's saying. For you on the outside, yeah, you're not supposed to murder and you're not supposed to steal. But for those who are in the inside, the apostles, those who are in the inner house, the secret society members, well, they care nothing. They care nothing about stealing and murder, right? And they're following the example of Jesus, who of all of the 10 commandments, he cared the least about stealing and murder. That's the author's point in the text. Okay, anyway, let's continue. But our business now is with the chief of the apostles. So the author is saying we're going to change directions. Forget about Jesus for now and his lack of morality, his duplicity, Pisces, right? Corporations, religion, corporate religions, the Catholic Church, Onum Sanctum, Doctrine of Discovery, Manifest Destiny, Sesecute Trust. What else, y'all? So on and so forth. Missionary work, right? All of this religious stuff. Oh, I'm going to throw in there the Holy See, the Pope's authority, Maritime Admiralty law, right? Page 147. The gospel, you see, in both example and I already read that. But our business now is with the chief of the apostles, the great paragon of moral perfection. So y'all see here, morality of the gospel is on trial. The author is bringing to our attention that the gospels are hypocritical when it comes to this morality. All right? Bad morality. Let's continue. Saint Peter, who denied his master, okay, Saint Peter denied his master and cursed and swore. Y'all know y'all good Christians ain't supposed to curse or swear. Y'all ain't supposed to lie. You ain't supposed to deny your God. Pretend like you don't know him. Big sins, right? Peter did both. St. Peter, who denied his master and cursed and swore to the very cock upon his roost crowed. Shame on you, Peter. But by the wink of an eye turned into Simon Peter, a servant and an apostle of Jesus Christ, the first saint of the calendar, the porter of heaven's gate. The porter of heaven's gate, and the rock and foundation of the whole Christian church. How about that, y'all? The rock and the foundation of the whole Christian church denied the Christ and cursed and swore. But you can't. You bet not. You're not. You're on the outside of the house. So how about this, y'all? A big sinner is given the keys to the kingdom, right? And he's made the foundation of the church. A big sinner, right? That's the same situation with Paul. Remember where we just the chapter we just finished? Those people who commit the worst sins, they call on the deity and boom, deity show up, roll the red carpet out for you. But the honest man, the man who's neither a sinner nor a crook, nor a thief, he works hard, take care of his family, everything else. He calls on the deity through prayer. Deity does nothing. The deity forces him to beg and plead, to pray without let up, right? Just like he did to the old woman. Y'all see the difference? Y'all see the contrast here? The big sinner versus the innocent, hard-working man or woman approaching in prayer to get help and forgiveness. You get nothing. You need to pray and keep praying and keep praying and wait and keep praying, and all the stress and worry that builds up. Where somebody like Peter and Paul, a murderer, a liar, someone who denied the Christ, who swore, well, they get big rewards, right? Look at what Paul got. Peter, look at what Peter gets for his sin. He gets the keys to the kingdom and to be the foundation of the Christian church. All right? So anyway, let's continue. Now, as we can never go to heaven when we die, unless Peter, to whom Christ has committed the keys. So now you got a liar. You got a liar, somebody who denied the Christ and cursed and swore, standing there with the keys to heaven. He's a liar. Somebody who denied the Christ, all the sins that Peter did, and he got the keys to heaven, and it's up to him to let you in. How about that? How about that? Wouldn't you prefer an honest person, someone who never cursed God, someone who never denied Christ? Wouldn't you prefer someone like that to have the keys to the kingdom? Because when you go there, you know he's going to be honest and let you in. His record, right? Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue. Now, as we can never go to heaven when we die, unless Peter, to whom Christ has committed the keys, shall be pleased to open the gate to us. Is it not worth our while to scrape all the acquaintance we can with such an important personage, and not to expose our souls to the dreadful venture of having to knock and cry, Lord, Lord, open to us, to receive no better answer perhaps than a go and be, ye fools, I know ye not, and why should I, when you never thought it worth your while to know me? Now remember, Peter has the key. Peter's an important person. Your religious leaders are important people. Don't they pray for you? A lot of people ask their religious leaders to pray for them. But now you're dealing with sinners and criminals and crooks. So if you want these people in the inner house, I'm speaking what the author is saying. If you want them to support you, you need to kiss a lot of butt, right? This is what he means by, is it not worth our while to scrape all the acquaintance we can with such important persons? You need to brown nose them. You need to kiss their butt, right? You need to appease them, right? This is what he's saying. You need to appease Peter. Pray to Peter. Anybody who has the ability to influence Peter opening up the gates of heaven to you, you better brown nose them. Okay? Otherwise, when you get there, you don't want to knock on that door, right? Better Peter's there waiting for you with the door open. Okay? If you knock on that door, maybe they won't let you in. That's the author's point. We're on page 147. Next paragraph. So then, if ye have a mind, I will introduce you to Saint Peter. Okay, so the author's saying now we're going to shift gears. He's going to introduce us to Saint Peter. Only if you have a mind, meaning that only if you're willing to use your intelligence will this have any effect. But the author has established the morality based upon Peter's record, his moral record, okay, in relation to Christianity, okay? In other words, Peter didn't even follow what he believes, the Christian doctrine about faith, right, and honesty. Peter did not follow it. Okay, so let's continue. I will introduce ye to Saint Peter, and will tell you more about him and of him than any of your clergy, either Catholic or Protestant, have ever known themselves, or if they have known, then they have ever had the honesty to tell you. Okay, y'all? So the author is making a big claim. He's claiming that he's going to tell you something that you've never heard before about Peter. And that your religious leader has most likely never heard before, and if they have, they didn't tell you. And they will never tell you. So let's see if he's going to do that. Now remember, we're also establishing his credibility too. Right? He makes a claim. We need to think critically about his claims and see if he actually does it. Right? So we're not just accepting anything the author writes. We're thinking critically. We're using our critical and analytical mind. We're using our intelligence. Okay, so we're not being credulous. The Aries Soak writes, hey, Big Broke. Islam and Shalom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What country are you in? Okay, y'all? Let's continue. Their objective. When he says there, he's talking about your clergy. Your pastor, reverend, preacher, teacher, captain, general, what else? Priest, bishop, cardinal, imam, rabbi, whatever. Their object being that of the cherubim with the flaming sword. That's in the book of Genesis, right? Y'all remember that the Garden of Eden was there was stationed the cherubim with the flaming sword to prevent Adam and Eve from re-entering. Their object being that of the cherubim with the flaming sword, which turned every way to keep you from the tree of knowledge. To keep you from the tree of knowledge. So these religious leaders' purpose, according to the author, is to keep you from getting to that tree of knowledge and eating from it, okay? Now, he says, my object being, his purpose for giving this sermon and the previous 9 sermons and all the other work that he did prior to that and after, his goal, his intent, his object being that which suitably comports with the title they have given me, the devil's chaplain, to tempt you by all arguments I can to eat of that forbidden fruit. For God doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then shall your eyes be opened. Ye shall see through the vile and wicked imposture that has been practiced on you. You shall see the vile and wicked witchcraft, the vile and wicked spells and enchantment that has been practiced on you, and the power of the priests shall exist no longer. Y'all got that? So it is knowledge about the origin of these gospels, according to the author, what they really are, which are fairy tales, and that it is worshiping of the stars, astrotheology. See, star or celestial body worship. So the author is telling you that if you take the time to learn etymology, philology, astronomy, astrology, and history in the context of the Gospel and the so-called Old Testament, you will see with your own eyes, provided you want to use your intelligence, you want to use your mind, provided you want to see. And having seen and observed, critically thought about, pondered over, meditated on, and analyzed all of the problems, the solution that you'll come to is that the gospel stories are a remix of natural celestial phenomena. And when you come into that knowledge and that realization, you become mentally free from the bondage of religion. You become mentally free of the mental bondage of religion. And once you become mentally free, meaning that you not only go to their churches anymore, you not only pray to their deities anymore, but most importantly, you're no longer afraid of their deities. The fear of the deity no longer governs your behavior at all. Okay, and when enough people get to that point, well, guess what? The priestly class, these cowards, these criminals, they'll no longer have a job. They'll no longer have a job. You don't need them to pray for you now. Right? In fact, you don't even want them around you. As a matter of fact, let me go back. Let me see if I can I just had a thought come to mind. Let me see if this is a good place to say this, or hold on. Y'all know what I'm thinking about, right? What the author wrote about once you learn what these things mean and you're no longer afraid, you get God out of your house, right? You get the gods out of your house, and then all of a sudden you'll find that the money, the riches, the good lifestyle comes into your house as soon as you get the God, the devil, out of your house. What page was that on, y'all? I'll come back to it. I don't remember the exact page right now, but I'll come back to it when I remember it. I can speak from my personal experience. That's true. Remember, this God is the devil, y'all. But of course, they're not the devil you've been taught in Christianity, not that devil. Are these spirit creatures real? Absolutely. Is this God that you're serving the creator of the universe and all of that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Unbeknownst to you, when you use the word magistrate, you're calling that worshiper of Saturn, wearing a black robe, sitting in the bully pulpit. You just called him a god. Right? Magi, magistrate. Okay? You just submitted yourself. Anyway, I don't see where I want it, so I'm going to keep it pushing. I'll come back to it later. Y'all remember, this word God is full of booby traps. You're better off not using it. Or if you do use it, I can suggest you do what I do. God, Zeus, Apollo, Jupiter, Jupiter, right? Jupiter, Zeus, Jesus. Y'all see that? The consolidation. Jupiter, Jupiter, Zeus, Jesus. Y'all see the two words contracted to form Jesus? Odin, Woden, Magi, magistrate, master. Jesus himself was called master, etc. I'm kind of getting off topic. Let me find where I left off. Hold on. Okay. I think I'm in the right place. Okay. So their object being that of the cherubim with the flaming sword, which turned every way to keep you from the tree of knowledge. My objective being that which suitably comports with the title they have given me. See, they gave him the title, the devil's chaplain. To tempt you, what he's saying is that he wants to tempt you to use your critical thinking faculty. He wants to tempt you into thinking. Why? Because you're not thinking now. You're under a spell. You've been conditioned not to think. And you're afraid to think, especially to think critically about the Gospels, because you think you've been conditioned to believe that you're doubting. And you shouldn't doubt the Gospel. Well, that's not doubting. That's asking questions. That's applying critical thinking to determine whether or not there's sufficient facts and evidence to cause you to accept the credibility of what was said, the source, the character of the person, and whether you should rely on it. But they've turned that part of your brain off, made you think that it's a sin. So the author is trying to get you to switch that intelligence back on. To tempt you by all arguments I can, by showing you the etymology, that's one argument. By showing you the philology, that's the second argument. By showing you the astronomy and astrology, that's the third category of evidence or argument. And of course the history, a fourth category of evidence or argument. Right? And of course grammar rules when he does do that. Alright, y'all? So to tempt you to turn on your critical thinking capacity by all arguments I can, I just mentioned them, those are the gospel busters, right? The trinity of gospel busters. To eat of that forbidden fruit. Isn't that interesting? Knowledge is a forbidden fruit in Christianity. It's presented that way. How many of y'all have ever thought about it like that? But anyway, let's continue. For God doth know, or doth know, that in the day that you eat thereof, for in the day that you acquire knowledge, then shall your eyes be open. Ye shall see, you shall see through the vile and wicked imposture, through the vile and wicked lies, through the vile and wicked remix of natural phenomena into religious dogma doctrine. That the priest class, or that has been practiced on you. Y'all got that? That has been practiced on you. Just like you go to, let's say your doctor. You go visit him, right? The doctor does whatever he does when you go to see him. Well, he's practicing on you. He's practicing medicine on you, right? When you go into the church or into your camp, temple, synagogue, assembly, well, that religious leader, that clergy member, they're practicing on you. Yes, they're casting spells on you, enchanting you, hitting you with bewilderments, etc. All of that through books, well, through writing, books, prayers, sermons, song, lyrics, the music. All of these are forms of enchantment that are used to put you under a spell. put you under a spell where you turn your intelligent mind off. You stop thinking critically. You stop thinking critically. And you just accept and give. Okay? And you submit to being a stateless person. In North America, you submit to being a 14th Amendment stateless person. A civilly dead subject, Moorish subject. Black, non-descendable, non-inheritable. No constitutional protections, no treaty protections. You are defenseless. Thanks to your religious leaders and your religious doctrine. Underneath all of that, at the foundation, is your belief in the gospel. And I'm going to say this as I've said it many times. Unless and until you escape religion, the mental bondage of religion, even if you stop going to church, if you stop doing all the things that a Christian does, you'll still have the mindset of a Christian. You'll still be afraid of everything that a Christian is afraid of. And when am I back? All right. And when pressure is put upon you, you will do exactly what a Christian does, which is crumble. You will crumble. Why? Because you're still a Christian. You're still a Christian. Okay, you're still under the spell. The only way to free yourself from the spell is to do exactly what the author has said. And I just reviewed it. You need to learn etymology and philology, astronomy, astrology, and history. That's the Moorish culture. That's the Moorish culture. And until you return to your heritage, until you start to follow the Most High's instructions, which are natural laws, follow them in terms of your action and your thinking. That means that you have to come to the realization and acceptance that you are Psalms 82:6. All of you are quote unquote gods. All of you are significant people, nobles, the powerful ones on the planet, the rightful heirs to all land, energy, resources, commerce, contracts, etc. Unless and until you accept that and you start to live it and be it, meaning you start to be yourself, you'll always be a nigga. You'll always be a Christian. And everybody knows that Christians are cowards. Everybody knows it. I got an uncle. I got an uncle. Y'all remember around the time of remember when the two flying what was the two? Remember when the flying object flew into a building? These two big buildings in New York. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay. Y'all know what I'm talking about? My uncle said, I had this uncle, my Uncle Mark. He was a really, really good guy. Really good guy. He used to share his knowledge and experience in life with me. And he said the difference between a Christian and a Muslim is that a Christian, had they been on that flying object, if they were Christians and not Muslims, The Christians would have did everything and said everything that the Muslims said. But before impact, the Christians would have turned the plane. They would have turned the plane. They wouldn't have followed through. Why? Because the Christians are afraid to die. Christians are cowards. Right? Why? Because their lifestyle is inconsistent with their morality. They're afraid to go to hell. They think they're going to burn in hell. They're not sure about their future when they die. Y'all see what I'm saying? And he's right. He's right. Okay? So, when the Moor has to face his foes, he or she will crumble. Why? Because you're in the Christian state of mind. You're still relying on an external deity, still expecting an external deity to save you rather than you save yourself. Still afraid of burning in hell. The Christian doctrine of burning in hell. Or maybe dying the second death and not being resurrected anymore. Or being dead for eternity. No consciousness for eternity. That's what the religious tradition I was in taught. That's the second death. Alright? Or you're afraid to suffer. You're afraid to fight back because you've been taught to turn the other cheek. And I'm not saying physically fight back, but of course, you have a right to defend yourself. I'm saying civilly fight back. See, the big bad state's attorney or the magistrate, or those actors in those roles as state's attorney and magistrate, they start bullying you and pushing you around, lock you up, and then you get scared. You get scared, right? And now they got you. Now they got you. All right? That's how it goes. So my position is and always will be, and y'all might disagree with me, and you have a right to disagree with me, but I'm telling you my position. Unless and until you get out of religion and clear it from your system, and you accept that you are the creative power in this universe, amongst others, right? We are what? We are what? We are thought made manifest from the soil. Each of us are set at a different frequency of consciousness. But energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's the alpha and omega. It only what? It can only transform. Right? And the best way to develop your character is being in situations where you can see the flaws in your character. The best way to remove the distortions of your self-image is to be confronted with problems, foes, so that you can overcome those fake limitations that have been imposed on you, or that you imposed, or that you accepted somehow or another. When you face it, you face the fear, face the foe, face that limitation and overcome it, well, that's one distortion removed. Okay? Until all of the distortions are faced, all of the foes, the fake limitations are removed, and now, all of a sudden, here you are. You're being yourself, the great I am. Masculine mental energy, masculine mental gender energy. That's who you are. Boundless, limitless, the great I am. That's my position. If you have a different position, I'd love to know what it is. Let me put this in context. Let's say you do everything that you're supposed to do, you proclaim your nationality. You do all of these things, right? And you have an issue that someone's trying to denationalize you, okay? And you go through that whole process. What I'm saying is that eventually, at some point, those who have not gotten Christianity out of their system, they're still in mental bondage. At some point, they will give in. They will give in. Okay? That's all I'm saying. They will give in. Whereas those who have escaped Christianity fully, and they accept who they are, and they're being themselves, they will not give in. They will face all their foes and come out successfully. Doesn't mean that they won't be challenged, that they won't experience setbacks. Of course, they will, right? Because that's a process of cleansing, removing the distortions from your self-image. It's a process of returning to the Most High. It's a process of going from a low vibration to a higher vibration. This is transmutation. All right? Rhythmically transmuting to the higher self, to Christ consciousness, to the Christ, summer solstice position. And then staying there, using the lesser law of cosmic habit force to polarize right there in the higher self, where you're the Christ. You're the great I am. Y'all see what I mean? Anyway, let's keep going. Let me emphasize this too. When we all do this, or when a large enough number of us do this, the priestly class will be out of a job. They won't have the power. In fact, there'll be no need for their services anymore. Y'all see it? So we have the power to do away with the priestly class if we use our intelligence, and if we want to, right? If we want to return to the Most High. Y'all see, this is all keeping the Most High's commandments and the contract. In religion, y'all call it the Mosaic Covenant. Does everybody see that? Everybody see that that's all this is? The Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, settles the ambiguity of the text of Matthew, chapter 8, verse 14, by determining for us what otherwise we should have no right to determine, that it was Simon's wife's mother, and not Jesus' wife's mother, that had a fever. Okay, so now, y'all, look. Luke's writing, the Gospel of Luke, answers the question. But the problem with that is that Luke is a whole other writing that happened at a whole other time. Y'all see? That's the problem with that. That's the problem with it. So Luke goes in and cleans it up. Okay, Luke goes in and cleans it up. Tells us, well, it was Peter's, how does it go? It was Simon's wife's mother. See, because we can't have the people thinking that Jesus was married, so Luke better go in here and clean that up. Because that's a big problem if Jesus was married. Okay, y'all? Simon and Peter, or Simon Peter, being assumed to be synonymous. Y'all got that? So the author is saying that Simon could be one person and Peter a second, two people. But we make the assumption that they are one person, hence Simon Peter. All right? Or a double name for one and the self-same personage. But the matter is but little mended. So it ain't fixed yet, y'all. But the matter is little mended in this account, which represents the fever. We're on page 148, which represents the fever which had seized the old woman. See, the fever seized the old woman. Y'all see the problem with that? When have you ever seen a fever seizing someone? It's talking of a fever as though it's a person, right? A fever cannot seize someone. That's personification of the fever. This is the author's point. Okay? So anyway, let's continue. But the matter being little mended in this account, which represents the fever which had seized the old woman, as being as much a real personage, a real person, personification of fever, as sensible a personage is, or person, as the old woman herself. Y'all see that? The personification of fever, seizing the woman, grabbing the woman, the old woman. Saint Luke, who we are told was a physician, and therefore ought to be called Dr. Saint Luke. And we have at this day a Dr. Saint John. Tells us that this fever took the woman. The fever took the woman. Y'all see that? So the fever is being personified as a man or a woman. Not that the woman had taken the fever, right? So the woman taken the fever, in other words, the woman's body produced the fever. No, this is talking about a fever outside of the woman taking the woman. Y'all got it? Pay attention to the language here. And not that the fever was a very bad fever, or a yellow fever, or a scarlet fever. These are illnesses, right? But that it was a great fever. That is, I suppose, a fever 6 feet high, at least. A personal fever, a rational and intelligent fever that would yield to the power of Jesus' argument. Yeah, right? Y'all know what Jesus told the fever to go away. But would never have given way to James' powder. P-O-W-D-R. I don't know if that's a typo. Y'all see that? I don't know if it's a typo. But just see Jesus' power and James' powder. I'm going to look up powder and see what the nuances of meaning it has, to see if I missed something. Alright, drop my napkins, y'all. Okay, so here fever is personified to be 6 feet tall, rational and intelligent. Okay, why am I saying this? Because of the text. Matthew chapter 8 verse 14. And when Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother lay and sick of a fever. Okay, that's why the grammar, if you understand grammar, you'll understand that fever is personified as a person here. Okay? Anyway, let's continue. So we are expressly told that Jesus rebuked the fever, that is, he gave it a good scolding, asked it, I dare say, how it could be so unreasonable as to plague the poor old woman so cruelly, and whether it wasn't ashamed of itself, and said perhaps, get out, you naughty wicked fever, you, go to hell with you, and such like objurgatory language, which the fever, not being used to be rebuked in such a manner, and being a very sensible sort of fever, would not stand, but immediately left the old woman in a high dungeon, and swore he'd never come into the house again. Okay, so that's what we get from the grammar. The fever is a person. I hope everybody can see that. All right. The next important discovery is that Peter, or Simon Peter, was at any rate worth a house, which shows us, at least, that the man was by so much richer than the master, who declares that he had not where to lay his head. Let me read that again, y'all. How long have we been going? Let me read that again. The next important discovery is that Peter, or Simon Peter, was at any rate worth a house. What the heck does that mean? Which shows us, at least, that the man was by so much richer than the master, who declares that he had not where to lay his head. Oh, okay. So Peter is a lot richer than Jesus. Jesus said he didn't have a place to lay his head. I got it. The apostle, you see, had a fixed and permanent place of residence. The apostle had a house, a home. Jesus had no place to lay his head. He had no home, while his master had not. It is hard to reconcile this admission of Peter's being a housekeeper and able not only to keep a wife, and very likely a large family of his own, but to keep his wife's mother as well, with the general understanding that he was exceedingly poor and nothing more than a poor fisherman of the Galilean lake, except we suppose that his wife took in washing, which may account for her husband being a water bearer. There's an asterisk, which reads, Peter is unquestionably Aquarius of the Zodiac. Wow. Did y'all just hear that? Well, I know that in the religious tradition I come from, we were taught that all the apostles were poor fishermen. Yeah, we were taught that. That was the doctrine. They're all poor fishermen, right? But yet Peter had a house. If you have a house, you need to have somebody in the house, right? You got to have a woman. You got a woman, most likely you have some bambinos. So you got to have enough money coming in to take care of your house, right? The people living in your tent, your consort and your heirs. But Peter also had, according to the author's point of view, his mother-in-law living there. So he had to have, he couldn't have been so poor, right, he had enough to take care of his heirs, his consort, and her mother, according to the author's point of view. So, that said, where did the extra money come from to provide for this household? Or for all of, let me not say household, for his heirs and his consort and his consort's feminine mom. I don't know how to say it in a better way. This to me is very interesting. Well, his wife was washing clothes to make money. The wife is washing clothes to make money. Peter is a fisherman, water. This making Peter the astrological zodiac sign Aquarius, the water bearer. Now I want to know more about that. I want to know more about that. Now y'all know that Aquarius in January is carrying a jug of water or water jug, and he's pouring water down into the big fish's mouth. Into the big fish's mouth. And that's where the story of Jonah comes from. And Peter is a fisherman. Okay? Aquarius, and then Pisces, and then Aries. So we're approaching the end of the wintry months, right? I don't know. I got to think about it. But I want to know more about this. Let's continue. Page 148. I don't have any thoughts coming to my mind yet. But then again, we have the fresh difficulty open upon us in the Acts of the Apostles, which implies that Peter was not a fisherman, but a tanner. Uh-oh. All right, so the Acts of the Apostles applies that Peter was a tanner, whose house was by the seaside. With this most curious source of ambiguity, which none of your clergy can give a reason for. Okay, so y'all go ask y'all pastors and elders, etc., to explain this to you. That Peter was implied to be a tanner in the Acts of the Apostles, and he lived by the seaside. And you shall soon see that I can. So the author is saying he's going to explain all of this to you. And Simon Peter, who in the gospel is but one person in the Acts of the Apostles, splits into two, Simon and Peter. Uh-oh, y'all. So Simon Peter, one person. But in the Acts of the Apostles, he's two different people, Simon and Peter. All right, y'all? And you shall soon see that I can, the author says, explain all of this to you. That Simon Peter, who in the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, is but one person. And then, who is but one person in the Acts of the Apostles, Simon Peter splits into two, Simon and Peter. And then Peter is no longer a housekeeper, but a lodger. Peter is no longer a housekeeper, but a lodger. Peter lodging in the house of Simon. The house of the tanner being by the seaside, which was certainly not the best situation for a tan yard. May account for the mistake of the tanner being taken for a fisherman. Though the most conclusive reason for settling the question that this first of the apostles was a tanner and not a fisherman is that though he, that is Peter, might catch a sole, S-O-L-E, or a flatfish, now and then, yet we may be well, let me repeat that, yet we may be very well assured that there is nothing like leather. Attainder, right? Dying leather, quote unquote. And it came to pass, says our holy record, quote, that Peter tarried many days in Joppa with one Simon, a tanner, end quote. But the most curious fact is that God, that Zeus, that Jupiter, that Apollo, that Odin, Woden, that the Magi, that God Almighty, who knows nothing about 17 Carey Street, Lincoln's Inn, should discover such a very particular acquaintance with the house of Simon the Tanner. So he's being sarcastic. As in 2 or 3 particular revelations from heaven, repeatedly to describe it, as if to prevent all possibility of mistake. Okay, so that's right. That's right. When you see something twice or 3 times, it's for emphasis. Okay, so as the author is saying here, the purpose is to remove any possibility of mistake. Quote, and now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodgeth with one Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the seaside, end quote. That's where the author got the information. Identified his location. Okay, that's why he talked about 17 Carey Street, Lincoln Inn. That's a specific address, a specific house for someone. So in this case, the deity concerned himself with this specific address. Y'all got it? This is most condescending, particularly indeed. Okay, well, why? That's what I want to know. Now it is held to be a wonderful confirmation to the evidences of Christianity to know that there actually is a town of the name Joppa, situate in the Levant, on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Uh-oh, y'all see where this is going. See, these gospel writers made a huge mistake when they started putting dates and locations, because you can go back and you can search for evidence of a city named Joppa. Okay? So let's see what the author is going to say here. So this city of Joppa, where is in the Levant, on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, and our Christian travelers who always see what they go to see, by the help of this divine directory, will find you out the very tan yard of Simon, and come back in new shoes made of leather that Simon tanned. Okay, so now we have this address. So what's the significance of this address, y'all, this location? How does this hurt Christianity in terms of it being historical? While the scripture mentions no other place of permanent residence for St. Peter, none that could at any time be called his home but Joppa, God, Zeus, Odin himself, instructing us that if we want to find Peter, we must send him to Joppa, or Joppa, J-O-P-P-A. And if we really want to know who a man is, there's nothing like setting ourselves to find out who he is when he is at home. I talked about that yesterday, didn't I? Remember? About the character of men and women, who they are in public, you know, on the job, in the streets, and then who they are when they go home with their consort and heirs, right? About narcissists, people who are high on the narcissism spectrum, tyrants to their consort, to their heirs, or select or certain heirs. Y'all know narcissists, they usually have what's called a golden child, right? But then there is very often one of their heirs who they are vicious toward, or maybe all but one of their heirs who they're vicious toward, behind their back. But anyway, that's something else. But this is what the author is talking about. So we want to get to know Peter when he is at home. Now, as Peter was sort of a personage who found it convenient to have more names than one, and could only be identified by ringing the changes through a great many aliases, as alias Simon, alias Peter, alias Simon Peter, alias Peter Simon, alias Cephas, alias a stone, alias a rock, alias Satan, alias the devil. Get behind me, Satan. Remember when Jesus said that? So, I never thought about this before. Peter does have a lot of aliases. We have one of these aliases immediately conferred on him by Christ himself, which puts into our hands a clue to further unravelments. Quote unquote, blessed art thou, Simon Bar Jonah, end quote. Matthew chapter 14. But this quote unquote Bar Jonah, y'all, I'm thinking Jonah as in Jonah and the big fish, and Aquarius holding his water jar, pouring water into the big fish's mouth. Bar Jonah, Jonah, Aquarius. Anyway, let's see where the author takes this. Now that came out of Christ's own mouth, y'all, at Matthew chapter 16, y'all. That's Matthew chapter 16. We'll put it on the camera. That quote came from Matthew chapter 16. Take a look at my finger. Matthew chapter 16, right there. Look like I'm flipping you off. Matthew chapter 16. But this quote unquote Bar Jonah ought to be no bar to our perception. So Bar Jonah shouldn't fool you. Bar hyphen Jonah shouldn't fool you. Why? Because you should be starting to get a feel of the games that these grammarians, these scribes play with words to throw you off. But this quote-unquote Bar hyphen Jonah ought to be no bar to our perception that Simon and Jonah are one and the same person. Quote-unquote Bar Jonah signifying the son of Jonah. And son and father commonly bear the same name. Son and father commonly bear the same name. And Jonah, who navigated in the fish's belly when he had fled from the presence of the Lord. Capital Lord. When down to Joppa. He went down to Joppa, and there he found a ship going to Tarshish, so that Simon and Jonah, that is, Simon the son of Jonah, identifies the Peter of the New Testament as a second edition of the Jonah of the Old Testament, according to the analogy which, in so many instances, I have demonstrated as obtaining between the Old and the New Covenant. Right? In other words, they're taking stories from the Old Covenant and remixing them into new stories in the New Covenant. All right? So same concept. They take stories from the Old Covenant, change the names, alter the names of the people and places. Okay, meaning they alter the name of the person and alter the name of the city, the land, or whatever. They make changes to the story, they remix it. And then treat it as it's a historical story in the New Testament. Y'all see how these grammarians, these scribes, Jeremiah 8:8 scribes get down? Y'all see how they do it? I have demonstrated as obtaining between the Old and the New Covenant, with only this curious transposition, that in the New Covenant, it is the man that catches the fish. Y'all got that? Peter catches the fish in the New Covenant. That's the remix. Whereas in the Old Covenant, it is the fish that catches the man. The big fish caught Jonah and swallowed him. And Jonah stayed in the big fish's stomach for 3 days. Y'all see how they get down? Now it's not Dr. Yasapa making this stuff up. Not me making it up at all. This information, this sermon was given almost 190 years, almost 200 years ago. This ain't new information. It's new to us. New to you, new to us. But to those in the inner house, this is old news. And in fact, it ain't even news. It's history. Now the name Jonas, Jonas. Okay? Bar Jonah, BAR hyphen JONAH. Jonah, JONAH. Now the name Jonas, JONAS, which in the showing of Christ himself constituted so essential a part of the style of Simon Peter. Let me read that again. Now the name Jonas, JONAS, which in the showing of Christ himself constituted so essential a part of the style of Simon Peter. Simon Bar Jonah, BAR hyphen JONAH, is a direct anagram. Is a direct anagram and absolutely the same name as the Janus, Janus, who in the pagan mythology bears the same character, has the same character, right, as Jonah, as Peter, and fills the same function as Simon, well, let me repeat that, and fills the same function as the Simon Bar-Jonah or Peter of the gospel. Now here again, another evidence that the gospel stories are pagan. The gospel stories are pagan. So now you see another way that these priests and clergy get down. They hijack your story, your stuff, your science, turn it into a religion, personify, allegoricalize. Let me repeat that. They steal the science from another culture, another nation, allegorize it, and then teach people that these natural phenomena that they have now personified or created people out of, giving them names and attributes of men and women, giving them or give them a history, a biography, and then they push it on the people, on the masses, that these are real historical stories. Y'all see how they get down? All right? With this most curious, most startling coincidence of fact, all right, y'all? That while no single line of historical record or any character whatever was ever yet to be adduced to prove that any such person as Simon Peter or Simon Bar-Jonah ever existed or was ever in Rome. Through all periods of its pagan history, was famous for its temple of Janus, Janus. Janus was not a Greek, but peculiarly and exclusively a Roman deity. Janus was a Roman deity, not Greek. And Rome, to this day, retains the self-same Janus, Janus, under his name Peter, as her patron saint. So the patron saint of Rome is Janus, who is Peter. And her temple, her being Rome, and her temple of Janus, Janus, on the self-same spot of ground under her name of St. Peter's Church. Now, is that all coincidence, y'all? Janus, the name, let me read this again. Under his name, Peter, as her, that's Rome's patron saint, and her temple, that's Rome's temple of Janus, on the same spot of ground under her name of St. Peter's Church. So Janus, the temple of Janus, is in the same location or on the grounds of St. Peter's Church. Clearly, they're the same. The figure of God, Janus, Janus, was represented with the staff in one hand, with which he pointed to a rock. The god, the Roman deity Janus is depicted in paintings or in sculpture with the staff in one hand, and he's pointing at a rock. Now remember, Peter is the rock. Whence issued a profusion of water. He's got the staff pointed at the rock, and water comes out of the rock. Water, Aquarius, the jar of water. While in the other hand, a key, now this is Janus, y'all, Janus, the Roman deity. And a key held in the other hand. Peter is given the keys to the kingdom, and had generally near him some resemblance of a ship. Peter in the New Testament is a fisherman. Bar Jonah in the Old Testament, or Jonah, Jonah, is eaten by the fish and shipped off. And actually Jonah was on a ship, right? So now y'all tell me, using your critical thinking mind, is all of this evidence mere coincidence? Or do you see fraud? Do you see fraud? Do you see intentional deceit? You be the judge. You be the judge. Don't be afraid to come to a judgment. Don't be afraid to make a decision. Do you see fraud? Or is all of this evidence mere coincidence? Is this collusion? Is it collusion to get you to give up your birthright? To get you to stop thinking, using your rational mind? Is it a collusion to keep you in a civilly dead state? To keep you under the jurisdiction of maritime admiralty, Catholic, Christian, corporate policy? To get you to willingly, although unknowingly, innocently, many of you, forfeit or give up your birthright? Y'all? Now remember, these Gospels, what is it called? A New Testament, a new contract. If you see fraud, then this contract is void. Void from the beginning. Void ab initio. Y'all see it? The New Testament is void due to fraud. How many of y'all understand what I'm saying? Put a 1 in the comment section if you understand what I am saying. The New Testament, if you see fraud, you must render a decision to accept it or reject it. If you accept it, then all of this stuff in your head, all the evidence that we've been considering, is mere coincidence. But if the evidence is beyond a reasonable doubt that these scribes, modern well, let's say hundreds of years ago, from the beginning, Jeremiah 8:8, Jeremiah 8, chapter 8, until now, until today, that these scribes, that these religious leaders, the priestly class, the clergy class, have intentionally deceived you. If you see that, you must admit or render judgment that these documents, the New Testament, are void from the beginning due to fraud. And therefore, they have no authority over you. They have no jurisdiction over you. Meaning that Christian canon law is not the jurisdiction that you're in. Cannot be, right? Because the contract, the new covenant, is void. Void from the beginning. Jeremiah 8, verse 8. So, as the author said when we began, he said he's going to introduce you to Peter, provided you're willing to use your mind. Now, at this point, it's time for you to make a decision. Are you willing to use your mind? Page 144 of 47. Page 147. So then, if ye have a mind, I will introduce you to St. Peter, and will tell you more about him and of him. Meaning he's going to do what? He's going to give you information so that you can make some determinations, some judgments about his credibility and about the credibility of the scribes who scribbled these stories. Jeremiah 8, verse 8. So if you have a mind, you will not act credulously. You will not just accept what the clergy has told you, what the scribes have told you in their writings, what your preachers and teachers have said in their doctrine. No, you will investigate, think critically and analyze, and then make a judgment. Is there fraud? In consideration of etymology, philology, linguistics, right? Astronomy, astrology, history. We can include the mythology in that. The history of Rome, the mythology of Rome. Having considered these things, or these sources of evidence, categories of evidence, using your mind, what's your judgment? What is your judgment? Me personally, I see massive fraud. I see Jeremiah 8, verse 8 everywhere. Massive fraud. So the New Testament has no authority in my life. I do not submit to the jurisdiction of the Catholic Church. I am not civilly dead, but I am in full life. In propria persona sui juris. I'm here. Look at me. But for those of you who cannot render an intelligent judgment, hopefully you'll get there. Hopefully eventually you'll be able to see the fraud, and that this contract called the New Testament is void from the beginning And you should not put yourself in this jurisdiction. You should not put yourself in this jurisdiction. Hopefully you'll get there. Okay, and if you're in that jurisdiction, hopefully you're willing to make a decision now to return to the Most High, to follow the Most High's commandments, which are natural laws. Y'all got it? And to live out, walk out the principles of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, which are the principles of nature. Okay, the principles of nature, which are expressed in the Constitution for the United States of North America and the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1836, between the Moroccan Empire and the United States of North America. Natural law principles are there, all trust law, dealing with a state, and our principles, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You correlate that with Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. If you're not there, I hope you get there faster. Page 140. Page 148. Hold on, y'all. Nope. Wow, we've covered a lot. Hold on. Page 104, page 151, that's where we're at? Page 151, y'all. Page 151. You know what? Let's stop here. We've been going for 2 hours. I can keep going. If y'all want to keep going, I can keep going. Page 151. He was addressed, quote unquote, Jane Bifrons, Anit. So this looks like it's in Latin. I'm not going to read that. Let's read it in English. Two-faced Janus, the origin of the silently flowing years. Janus, January. He was believed to preside over the new year. That's Janus, Janus. His two faces, sometimes one old and the other young. So one old face, the other face was young, was emblematical of his looking both on the old and the new year, as the name of the month of January is derived from that of Janus. And his fingers were so disposed as to represent the number 365. Well, I wonder how that is. His fingers were so disposed to represent the number 365. The number of the days of the year. Sometimes the two faces, the old and the young, were represented as one looking upward to the coming year, the other downward to the year gone by, and were set on two distinct persons. And in this form, you may see him to this day on the western front of our own St. Paul's Cathedral. So you'll see Janus on St. Paul's Cathedral, where he has got the character of the evangelist St. Mark. And the church has invented the silly lie that St. Mark wrote his gospel. Y'all got that? So the Catholic Church lied when they said that Mark wrote his gospel under the immediate dedication or dictation of St. Peter. So Mark wrote Peter's gospel, but Peter dictated it and Mark penned it. All right, so according to the author, that's a lie. As there you will observe the old boy with his pen in his hand, ready to scribble away, scribble, scribe, write. While the young one, a little cupid with wings, the very form of the Aquarius or water bearer of the gospel. Now y'all, I'm going to try to find this image on St. Paul's Cathedral. We just covered that chapter, y'all remember? Okay, so again, while the young one, the young face, a little cupid with wings, the very form of Aquarius or water bearer of the Zodiac, is looking him up in the face and telling him what to write. Well, y'all, is this coincidence? You see it in the art, in the architecture of St. Paul's Cathedral. And we've already gone through the pediment, remember y'all, etc., with Paul falling off the horse. We've already gone through the astrotheology of that. So it's credible. You have evidence that you can see, and you have history that you can read about. Okay? It's not a priest or somebody talking to you, telling you the doctrine, but you can actually see it with your own eyes and touch it. You can read the stories regarding those images and characters. All right? Okay, so let's go back here. So while the young one is looking him up in the face and telling him what to write. Okay? So St. Mark is writing while St. Peter is telling him what to write. While we have still preserved the very words of the pagan prayer book, this is another piece of evidence. While we have still preserved the very words of the pagan prayer book, which identify him with the Peter of the gospel. Quote, Chris, thank you, man. Chris, it's my pleasure. All my pleasure. Quote, Jane Pater. J-A-N-E, Jane Pater. P-A-T-E-R. Jane Twins, or Tunes. J-A-N-E. And then Tunes, T-U-E-N-S. Dive, biceps, biformis. That's the Latin. The English is, okay, let me go to the English. O Father Janus. O regarding Janus. J-A-N-U-S. Two-headed, two-bodied saint. Saint. O wise sower of things, O chief of all the gods. Page 151. Peter is the chief of the apostles, right? The foundation, the rock. Peter holds the keys to the kingdom. Let's continue. Let's let the author Flame? Is it Flame? Oh, what's the discussion? The discussion is, okay, this is the free astrotheology course, okay? This is the free astrotheology course. Our book is The Devil's Pulpit. The title of the book, The Devil's Pulpit. is a judo move on what the religious class or the clergy class branded the author with, to scare the people away from him, because the author started to reveal the Freemasonic secrets, that the Gospels are fairy tales. Jesus Christ never lived, and neither did any of the characters in the Gospels. It's all made up. But these stories have their origin in worship of the stars. Okay, worship of the heavenly bodies, hence astrotheology, star worship, celestial body worship. That's a discussion broadly. The sermon, the lecture we are on is a lecture on St. Peter. Who is St. Peter? Who is he? What's his significance in the gospel story? Who is he astrologically? Who is he in mythology? Okay? So the tools that we use are etymology, philology, astronomy, astrology, but not astrology, the hocus pocus stuff that we know today. We're looking at the old time astrology, which is astronomy, science, and of course history. That's the topic. So Peter is not who you have been told Peter is. Okay? So if you're just coming in to this conversation, y'all, watch this video from the beginning, okay? And you'll get the details. So we're 60, this is the 60th video presentation of the Devil's Pulpit that I've done this year in 2023. This is number 60. So you can watch the last, you can watch all the videos from the beginning, or watch this one from the beginning, because we started this at the first page of the chapter. All right, page 145, or sermon or lecture number 10. Okay? The link to the free PDF of the Devil's Pulpit, along with links to books I have written and my classes online and live online, are in the description area of this video, so you can get up to speed that way. Okay? So we are on page 151 of Chris writes, "Hey, come to my hometown, Charleston, South Carolina." Okay, set it up. Tell me what you want me to go there for and set it up. It's my pleasure, Chris. All right. All right. Okay, so Peter is Jonah and the big fish, and Aquarius, and Janus, the Roman deity. Okay, and we've been going over all of the evidences of that, not doctrine, not beliefs, but evidence. I just gave you the categories of evidence. Okay? Now let's continue. O Father Janus. O regarding Janus. Two-headed, two-bodied saint. O wise sower of things. O chief of all the gods. Well, let me read this message with y'all. Hold on. Chris, read us. Greet us and help. Chris writes, greet us and help us understand things much more better. You're welcome and thank you, sir. Star Gospel Mission. Chris, Islam and Shalawama. All right, Islam and Shalawama. The word pater, P-A-T-E-R, the word pater, P-A-T-E-R, now generally taken for the Greek or Latin for father, father. F-A-T-H-E-R is but a corruption of the word Peter. Y'all got that? Y'all got that? Pater, now generally taken for the Greek or Latin for father, is but a corruption of the word Peter. The word pater or Petor, P-E-T-O-R, whence the name of the apostle Peter, P-E-T-E-R, was, as the learned Bryant has shown. Now, Bryant is a lexicon from back at that time. So now the author was giving this sermon in 1831. He gave this sermon in 1831. Okay, so Bryant is a lexicon from that time. As a learned Bryant has shown, an Egyptian word, the true name of the Ammonian priests, Ammon, Amun-Ra, Amen, Amun, Amin, of the Ammonian priest, or priest of Jupiter, Ammon, or priest of Jupiter, Ammon, being Peter, P-E-T-E-R, or Pater, P-A-T-O-R, and it is found in combination to this day, that's in 1831, in the name of the supreme pagan deity, Jupiter. Do you see the power of etymology, scholars? Do you see the power of etymology and philology and history, particularly of the church, mythology, and art and architecture in these structures? Y'all see that? Now you have the evidence. If you were not able to see the frauds the last time I asked you in this video, do you have enough evidence to see fraud now, scholars? Do you have enough evidence to see fraud? I'm asking you to make a judgment now, if you're able. If you are still suffering from cognitive dissonance, hopefully, hold on y'all, it looks like a storm is about to come. All of a sudden it just got dark. Y'all know when it storms in Southeast Asia, it storms. But the worst storms I have ever seen have been in Philippines. And that might be because their sewage system is not good, right? But the storms in Vietnam are nowhere near as terrible, as dangerous as the storms in Philippines. But anyway, let's keep going, y'all. So Peter is Jupiter. This goes back to Egypt. Goes back to Egypt, the Ammonian priest, the priest of Jupiter, Ammon, Amen, Amen, Amin, however you want to pronounce it. Remember we went through that. Let me see if I can find it quickly. If I can find it, Chris writes, got it. Okay, Chris, good. Y'all can go back to those pages on Amun, Aman. Let me keep moving forward. And it is found in combination to this day in the name of the supreme pagan deity, Jupiter, which without any pun or levity, and in brave defiance of any approach of ridicule or sarcasm, stands incontrovertible. Let me repeat that. Without any pun or levity, and in brave defiance of any approach of ridicule or sarcasm, stands the incontrovertible basis and origin of the Jew, J-E-W, of the Jew, Peter, P-E-T-R, Jew, J-E-W, Peter, P-E-T-R, Jew, Peter, Jew. Jew was the name of God, capital G-O-D, which the soft and elegant utterance of the Greek nations pronounced with a sigma or zeta as Zeus or Zu, and Pater or Peter, signifying not his paternal character but his wisdom in foretelling things to come or bringing to light the proper attribute of time. Remember, one faces in the past, for the old year, and one faces to the new year, so past and future. As the priests of Apollo were called Pateres or Peters, in signification of their being interpreters of the oracles of Apollo, as our priests are to this day interpreters of the Gospels, interpreters of God's Word. So every time you pray to God, every time you get scared and you start praying to God, just remember you're praying to Peter, Apollo, Jupiter, Jupiter Ammon, Jupiter Amen, Jupiter Amen, and all of that stuff. You're praying to Janus, the Roman deity. You are praying to Zeus. Let me show y'all. You're praying to Zeus. Now, the author told you he was going to give you some information that you had never heard of, never seen. Y'all see it? Zeus. So y'all go get Bryant's lexicon and do your follow-up. Do your follow-up research. Everybody see Zeus there? Overseas, they call Z Zet. So here it's Zeta and Zeus. Remember I was saying earlier, Jew Peter, Jesus, Jew Peter, Jupiter Zeus, Jupiter Zeus, Jew Peter. All right, so let's go through these. Let's go through these. So we have Peter, Simon, Simon, Peter, Peter, Simon. Jonah, J-O-N-A-H, Bar Jonah, B-A-R-J-O-N-A-H. Then there's Jonas, J-O-N-A-S. Okay, y'all? Let me move forward. Then there's Janus, J-A-N-U-S. Okay, now let's continue looking at the etymology of this word. The philology of it, because we're dealing with what? We're also dealing with history and architecture. to come to the conclusion of the meaning of some text. Then we have, let's see, what time is it? I guess a big storm is about to come, y'all. And then we have, let's see, Jonas. Hold on, y'all. Correlate that with Aquarius, the water bearer. Okay, when you do your extra research, check out the prayer book, the pagan prayer book with Janus. Now we go to the word pater, P-A-T-E-R, which in Greek and Latin is father, F-A-T-H-E-R, which is a corruption of the word Peter, P-E-T-E-R. Okay, y'all? Now, the word pater, P-A-T-E-R, or Petor, P-E-T-O-R. Whence the name of the Apostle Peter was, as the learned Bryant has shown. So go get Bryant's lexicon. Google search it, you can find it. I have it. I believe I have it. I'm pretty sure I have it. Okay, so Bryant has shown that this Petor is an Egyptian word. It is an Egyptian word. Okay, the true name of the Ammonian priests. Hence, you find what? The apostles calling themselves Father. Well, that's where it comes from. The Ammonian priests called themselves Father. That's why the Catholic Church, you call the priest what? Father. Straight out of Egypt, according to Bryant. The Egyptian word, the true name of the Ammonian priest, or priest of Jupiter Ammon, being Peter, P-E-T-E-R, or Pator, P-A-T-O-R. Okay, y'all, and it's found in combination. Found in combination to this day in 1836 to the name of the supreme pagan deity Jupiter. Jupiter, right, y'all? Zeus, Jupiter, Zeus, Jesus, Jesus. Y'all see how that was consolidated? Those two words were combined to form Jesus, Jupiter, and Zeus. Okay? So the supreme pagan deity, Jupiter, which without any pun or levity, you ain't got to borrow nothing, you ain't got to make a joke. Okay? I'm going to go through this again because this is really important, in my opinion. And in brave defiance of any approach of ridicule or sarcasm stands the incontrovertible basis. So the author is saying that this, you cannot challenge this. Y'all go out and get Bryant's lexicon. The incontrovertible basis and origin. The basis and origin of the name Jesus. The basis and origin of the Jew Peter. Can y'all see it? The basis and origin of Jew Peter. Y'all continue reading what it says. Pause the video. Page 152. The incontrovertible basis and origin of the Jew Peter, J-E-W, Peter, P-E-T-E-R, Jew, J-E-W, was the name of God, capital G-O-D. Jew was the name of God. Can y'all see it? Was the name of God. Another evidence, the Christianity is pagan. Jew was the name of God, which the soft and elegant utterance of the Greek nations pronounced with a sigma or zet. They pronounced it with the Z. Zet. Overseas, for Z they say zet or zeta, as Zeus. Let me show y'all. Y'all make sure y'all download the free PDF, okay? Y'all see it? Hail Zeus, hail Jesus, hail Jupiter, hail Janus. Every time you praise God and pray to God, this is who you are invoking. Now do you see why you're being cursed and punished? See why you take one step forward and 5 steps back? You're invoking these deities who your ancestors knew nothing about. All right, let's continue. So Jew was the name of God, which the soft and elegant utterance of the Greek nations. The Greek nations, not your people, the Greek nations. Pronounced with the sigma or zeta as Zeus or Zu, and Pater, P-A-T-E-R, or Peter, P-E-T-E-R. Look at what your religious leaders have done to you. Look at what they've done to you. Look at what they've done to you. They got you calling on Peter. You Catholics, and then you Christians and Hebrew Israelites, you venerate Peter, as with all the apostles. You ate up with the paganism. Signifying not his personal character, not his morality, right? The gospel is supposed to be about morality and ethics, right? But his wisdom. There's a difference, y'all, between wisdom and morality. Be sure of that. The morality all around the world differs. I can assure you the morality in Central and Eastern Asia is very different from the morality in North America, in Mexico, in Philippines, in Vietnam, in Thailand. Completely different morality. Okay? And one is not better than the other. Okay? So it signified his wisdom in foretelling things to come, quote unquote, or bringing to light the proper attribute of time. Now y'all know time is in the physical universe. Time is a mental construction in the physical universe. As priests of Apollo, were called Pateres, or Peters. Take a look at my fingers. Y'all see Apollo? See priests of Apollo were called Pateres or Peter. Okay, y'all? All right? Look at what your elders and generals and captains and ministerial servants and bishops and mores and moshes and reverends and rabbis, look at what they have led you into. Worshiping Egyptian deities, invoking Egyptian deities. See, y'all following Peter, right? In the Gospels. Y'all following Peter and Paul and all of the other apostles. Peter has the keys to the kingdom. Peter is the Egyptian deity Apollo. Peter is the deity Apollo. Jew Peter. the priest of Ammon. Jupiter Ammon has the keys to the kingdom. Jupiter Ammon, Zeus, has the keys to the kingdom. It's the foundation of the kingdom so that you so very much want to enter. Look at what they have done to you. But now that you know, you have the power now, you have the evidence now to free yourself if you want to. All right? As the priests of Apollo were called Pateras or Peters, in signification of their being interpreters of the oracles of Apollo, as our priests are to this day. That's right, your Hebrew Israelite leaders, your Christian leaders tell you that they have the right doctrine. And that if you're following any other doctrine, then you're not a Christian. You're not a Hebrew Israelite, right? You need to go to them to get the right doctrine. And that the doctrine is everything. Am I lying? Isn't that what they say in these Christian religions? In Hebrew Israelitism, which they claim that's not a religion, but they're carrying religious titles, and they're doing the same practices and ceremonies and celebrations that religions do. Common sense should tell you, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's religion. Islam to all the Moors. I'm Dr. Yasafa from Zion Law School. Thanks everybody for spending your time with me. I do appreciate it. Special thanks to those of you who have made a donation to my project to write the Book of the Law in modern English and Ancient Ibaryath, and to restore the natural law and natural law / constitutional principles, the astronomy, astrology, and to show you the etymological meaning of every word, so on and so forth. That information is in the description area of this video. Thanks everyone for buying my books, supporting my work, showing me that you appreciate me. That means a lot to me. Okay, that really means a lot to me. Also, thank you for those of you who have subscribed to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath class. All right, that class is $10, 10 notes subscription per month. I went in there, whoever it was that told me about the price, I updated the system, so anybody who wants to subscribe, the price is now set at $10 per month. Not $10, 10 notes. 10 notes per month. Okay, y'all? Islam to all the Moors, and Shalawama. I'll see y'all in about 12 or 24 hours.